So you want to own a whiskey distillery. Rich amber liquid aging in oak barrels, a rick house full of appreciating inventory, a product that gets more valuable every single year you just leave it alone. That's the picture, and it's not entirely wrong. Here's the number that should stop you cold. As of January 2025, Kentucky distilleries were sitting on 16.1 million barrels of aging bourbon, the highest inventory level ever recorded in the state's history, more than double the entire population of Kentucky itself. And in that same year, the state's distillers paid $75 million in taxes just for the privilege of letting that inventory sit there aging. A tax bill that had grown 163% in 5 years. You are not just building an appreciating asset. You are building a warehouse full of liquid that the government bills you for owning every single year, whether you ever sell a drop of it or not. Start with the mechanism that makes this business fundamentally different from almost anything else you could build. When whiskey goes into a barrel, it doesn't just sit there quietly maturing. It evaporates. The industry calls this the angel's share, and it typically costs a distillery somewhere between 2 and 6% of the barrel's volume every single year, purely lost to the atmosphere. Age that barrel long enough, and the cumulative loss over 10, 15, 20 years can eat away 15 to 30% or more of what you originally put in. A standard barrel holds 53 gallons and, at full yield, fills around 225 bottles. Every year that barrel sits aging, you're losing real, sellable product to nothing but air, and the whiskey inside won't even be legally marketable for a minimum of about 4 years under most bottled-in bond and straight bourbon rules. You've locked up capital in a product you can't sell yet, that's shrinking while you wait, that you're being taxed on the entire time. Here's what that actually costs in dollars, because the math is more brutal than most new distillery owners expect going in. Take a single barrel purchased for around $1,700. Financing that purchase at a typical 10% interest rate costs you $170 a year in interest alone. Add $50 for storage and another $20 for insurance and taxes, and you're looking at roughly $240 a year in pure carrying cost on a single barrel before you've sold a single bottle. Multiply that across a real production run of thousands of barrels, held for 4, 8, 12 years before they're ready, and you start to understand why this industry runs on debt and patient capital rather than quick cash flow. You're not running a beverage company in the traditional sense. You're running a specialized, highly taxed inventory financing operation that occasionally produces something you can drink. Now here's the part that's uniquely, almost comically specific to this one industry, in this one state. Kentucky is the only place in the world that taxes aging barrels of spirits as personal property, an ad valorem tax based on the assessed value of your inventory, charged year after year on the exact same barrels as they age. In 2025, the total assessed value of aging barrels in Kentucky reached $10 billion, a 25% jump from the previous year's record, and that $75 million tax bill fell on distillers regardless of whether the whiskey inside those barrels was selling well or not. Lawmakers did pass a bill in 2023 to phase the tax out entirely, but the phase-out doesn't fully complete until 2043, which tells you something important. Even the state's own legislature understood this tax was a genuine structural threat to the industry, and even their fix takes 2 full decades to finish unwinding. Which brings us to exactly what happens when the demand side of this business stops cooperating with the supply side. Between 2021 and 2022, distilleries across Kentucky ramped up production hard, barreling 2.7 million barrels in a single year, betting on demand that seemed like it would only keep climbing. It didn't. American whiskey production dropped nearly 28% in early 2025 compared to the year before, hitting its lowest level since 2019, and a Gallup poll from August 2025 found only 54% of Americans reported drinking alcohol at all, the lowest rate recorded in 80 years. The result was a devastating collision between years of aggressive expansion and a shrinking customer base. Garrard County Distilling Company, which marketed itself as Kentucky's largest all-new independent distillery, shut down in early 2025, carrying $26 million in debt. 52. 80. Distilling filed for full chapter. 780. Distilling filed for full Chapter 7 liquidation. Luca Mariano Distillery filed for bankruptcy for the second time. Even the giants felt it. Brown-Forman, the parent company behind Jack Daniel's, announced it was cutting 12% of its global workforce. These weren't small operators who made an obvious mistake. They were experienced producers who correctly read a boom and got caught holding years of aging inventory exactly when the market turned. So here's the final balance sheet, collapsed into one sentence. A product that takes years to become sellable, that shrinks by 2 to 6% a year through simple evaporation, that gets taxed annually on its rising paper value in the one state that dominates the entire industry, and that requires you to guess correctly, years in advance, exactly how much America will want to drink by the time your barrels are finally ready, is not a passive appreciating asset. It's one of the most patient, most heavily taxed, most demand dependent manufacturing businesses in the country, and the 16 million barrels sitting in Kentucky rickhouses right now are the physical evidence of an entire industry that bet the boom would never end, and is now paying, quite literally, for every single year it waited to find out.